Part 60. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 593. 591. When everyone heard He Jingyu's words, they nodded in agreement. What Jingyu said is that whether you are pursuing an official career or we are doing business, you must be cautious. Ji Shuliang said, to a certain extent, we can all prosper and suffer. From now on, we will all work together. We share the same hatred and create a future together. Huo Jekan said with a smile, okay, I will also express my position on behalf of the Huo family. I will definitely give you enough convenience. Thank you for your support of our Huo family. Officials and businessmen have had a close relationship since ancient times. If there is reform, it must first be economic, not political. Economic reform is bound to be inseparable from business. Everyone was discussing enthusiastically, but Huo Yingzhe was the only one who drank tea silently without speaking. Second brother, why do you keep drinking tea and not talking? Huo Yingzhe asked, a little strange. On such an occasion, the second brother should also join the discussion. Huo Yingzhe smiled and said, you are all right, I have nothing to say. In the future, as long as the Huo family does not treason, there will be no big trouble. Similarly, Qi Shuliang and Bai Qianjiao, as long as they do not reveal the secrets of country H, they will always be treated well by country H. At the same time, we are all smart people. We understand some things in our hearts and do not need to say more. Haha, don't you have any great ideas? Huo Yingzhe said with a smile. The second brother has always been the most astute and far-sighted person in the family. It is impossible for the second brother not to have his own ideas about such a major matter. Everyone knew that Huo Yingzhe was a shrewd little chicken thief, and they all looked at him. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, if he didn't say something useful today, he would be thought to have his own little agenda. Haha, Huo Yingzhe smiled, I can't speak of high opinions. I just remembered the productivity and production relations in the philosophy of Marxism. Insightful people have discovered that the current economic system and production relations can no longer promote the development of productivity, has hindered the development of productivity, so reform is urgent and has a theoretical basis. You can act boldly, and as long as it is not on the line, nothing will happen. Haha, we have said so much, here is the theoretical basis. Qi Shuliang said, it sounds very reasonable, keep talking. Yes, Yingzhe, keep talking, we are all our own in order to win over the Qi family, the Bai family, and the He family. Huo Jekan also hoped that Huo Yingzhe would say more. Then let me tell you my humble opinion, Huo Yingzhe said modestly, although the current planned economic system can function under the control of the state, it is also because of this that it is not as flexible as the foreign free market and loses spontaneity. The distribution system will also greatly reduce people's enthusiasm for labor. If it is reformed, it will change the economic form and allow private enterprises other than state-owned enterprises to participate in market competition. While activating the market, it will also force the transformation of the rigid planned economy. From a purely economic perspective, this will increase employment, enrich people's material lives, and boost the local economy. From other aspects, it will develop the economy, improve local people's living standards, and increase fiscal revenue. This is a real achievement. Haha, that's so well said, Qi Shuliang said. From Huo Yingzhe's words, he had new ideas. Huo Jekan's eyes also brightened, and he gained some insights into his future career. Several people chatted until late at night before going back to rest. Even lying on the sleepers, these people did not go to sleep immediately, but were thinking about what they would talk about tonight. This is the direction for future actions and is very important. The train traveled for a day and a night and finally arrived at Nanji. As before, the train stopped in Nanji for a day. He Jingyu took his family to pay homage to his father, and told his father that he was going to the United States with his wife and son, but he also comforted himself that Tian Tian would continue to stay in Nanxi and come to visit his old man often. Pray that my father's spirit in heaven will protect their family and keep them safe and healthy. In the evening, He Jingyu stayed at home and the family had a reunion dinner. They will leave tomorrow. He Jingyu and Wang Shuping called He Tian Tian over in private. Tian Tian, we hid these things at home before. Now that we are leaving, let me tell you, He Jingyu said, I said before that these things will be given to you. You should quickly put them away. He Tian Tian was stunned and looked at a big box on the table. Ah, He Tian Tian pretended to be surprised. Mom, Dad, do we have some good stuff hidden at home? Of course, we buried it at that time, Wang Shuping said with a smile. If you can wear it freely in the future, you can wear it. He Tian Tian opened it and saw the pair of jade bracelets on the top. The green color made He Tianation's eyes hurt. Qi Fang Fang wore this bracelet in her previous life and gave her an jade pendant. At that time, she was still grateful for Qi Fang Fang's kindness, but she didn't expect that all these things belonged to the He family. Thank God, thank Earth. In this life, her life was not in vain and she saved the things of the He family. Mom and Dad, now that you have a younger brother, you can divide these things in half, and each of us, brother and sister, will have half, He Tian Tian said. As a sister, how could she take advantage of her younger brother's things? He Jingyu smiled and said, there are still 20 years until your brother grows up. Besides, he will start a family in the future. Your grandmother's business will probably fall into the hands of your brother. What he gets there are more things than you. Don't be polite and take them all, otherwise your mother and I will feel bad. Dad. He Tian Tian is in a dilemma. She is already very satisfied with her current life. She has no regrets at all. As for the things outside her body, He Tian Tian doesn't want more. When Wang Shuping saw that her daughter still wanted her, she said angrily, Tian Tian, just accept it. Because of this era, you cannot have a complete education. Your father and I already feel guilty. This time when you go to country M, we feel bad that you can't go out with us and enjoy the wealthy life brought by your grandmother. If you accept it, we can go abroad with peace of mind. Yes, what your mother said is also what I meant, He Jingyu said, take it. I recommend the masterpiece The Daily Life of a Witch Cultivation to Immortality, a masterpiece of rabbit fairy tales that gay friends eat carrots. The witch is reborn and fights against cheaters. If you are not benevolent, you will become an immortal. Today's fifth update is 10,000 words, and there are more updates. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 594. 592. Seeing this, He Tian Tian had no choice but to nod. At worst, she would give it to her brother directly when he grows up. Then I'll accept it, He Tian Tian said. When you go abroad, you must write to me often. That's for sure, Wang Shuping said. You are our daughter. No matter what time, we will never forget to write a letter. You and Yingjia don't have to worry about life, your grandmother will send you money. I will send you all kinds of things that you can use. Live your life well and don't think too much about it. Wang Shuping said this not without purpose. He Tian Tian and Huo Yingjia were about to take the college entrance examination. If they went to college, Huo Yingjia's allowance and salary alone would only be enough to live on for a family of 4, but they would not be wealthy. But even though the family has so much money, how can they bear to let He Tian Tian and the children live such a materially poor life? Okay, I won't refuse this, He Tian Tian smiled and said. She and Huo Yingjia are adults, it doesn't matter, but she doesn't want to wrong her 2 children. Yes, that's how it should be, He Jingyu smiled and looked at his daughter lovingly. From now on, your mother and I are no longer with you, so you have to protect yourself and your children. If Huo Yingjia or the Huo family bullies you, don't bear with it, you still have your mother's family. He Tianation's nose was sore and her eyes couldn't help but moisten. She nodded and said, I remember, Mom and Dad, you can leave without worries. While little He Daodu was fast asleep, the three of them were talking to each other about their innermost thoughts. Early the next morning, He Tiantian and Huo Yingzhe personally saw off their parents, Bai Qianjiao, Qi Shuliang, and Huo Yingjun on the special train bound for Yanjing. Until the train disappeared from sight, He Tiantian still refused to leave the platform. Tiantian, let's go home. Huo Yingzhe gently took He Tianation's hand. We will spend the ups and downs in the future together, don't be afraid, you still have me. He Tiantian held Huo Yingzhe's arm and choked silently. Her family left. Fortunately, she also has her own little family and a husband who loves her. The two of them walked home together, feeling a little depressed along the way. As soon as he entered the house, he heard Rui Min and Rui Hua, siblings, as if they were competing, one crying louder than the other. He Tianation's sadness was swept away and she felt very distressed. Why are the babies crying so miserably? Are you hungry? After coming in, I saw Zhang Lifang changing the baby's diaper. Huo Yingzhe and He Tiantian quickly stepped forward to help, coaxing the two children. After putting on clean clothes and feeling the familiar smell, the two children's cries gradually became quieter. The child is so young, what should I do? He Tiantian is worried. It's too early for a child to recognize someone at such a young age. Zhang Lifang couldn't believe it when her grandchildren stopped crying. No, the child just happened to pee and cried so loudly because he felt uncomfortable. He Tiantian explained, not wanting others to know that the child was different from other children. Not even my mother-in-law. Huo Yingzhe knew what He Tiantian was thinking, and echoed, Mom, how can you understand this when you are a young child? By the way, Tiantian and I moved next door to prevent them from making noise at night and disturbing your rest. Actually, the place at home is quite big. Come and live together. Zhang Lifang was reluctant to leave her grandson and granddaughter and hoped that they could live here. Huo Yingzhe didn't want to live with his parents. When they were just a couple, they could barely tolerate it. Now that they have two more children, they don't want to be squeezed into his small room. He Tianation's room is also bigger than his. Then it's up to you, Zhang Lifang said. Anyway, it's next door. If you miss your grandchildren, you can come over and visit. The reason why He Tiantian doesn't want to live with her parents-in-law is to reduce conflicts, and at the same time, she doesn't want her parents-in-law to be too involved in the child's education. If you let your father-in-law and mother-in-law take care of the children, they will be particularly doting on them. Now that we have a yard and meet every day, that's enough. Huo Yingzhe moved his single bed directly to He Tianation's room and placed it next to her bed as a crib for the child. Huo Yingzhe also carefully built a wooden fence around the bed so that even if the child turned over in the future, he would not fall. The couple did their best to raise and take care of their two children. In June, the face of a child changes at will. Dark clouds, thunder, and lightning. After a while, it started pouring rain. He Tiantian stretched out her hand and let the rain hit her hand, reluctant to retract her hand. Seeing this, Huo Yingzhe pulled He Tiantian back and said, even if it's summer, you can't do this. What if you catch a cold? He Tiantian reluctantly turned to look at the rain outside and said, I don't know why, I especially like water when it rains. Is there something wrong with me? Huo Yingzhe frowned. Do you like water? For no reason, why do you like water? Huo Yingzhe gently pressed He Tianation's wrist a few times, but found nothing wrong. He smiled and said, it's okay. I guess there was a drought in Daowen County that year and you were scared. He Tiantian was dubious, nodded and said, maybe. It's strange, this feeling has started to appear since last year, but it's not strong. If Huo Yingzhe hadn't pulled her along today, she would have really wanted to run out and get wet in the rain. How could this be because of the severe drought? Although He Tiantian didn't know the reason, she knew it was abnormal. But even Huo Yingzhe didn't know the reason, and He Tian couldn't find the reason, and didn't want to make Huo Yingzhe worry, so she could only follow Huo Yingzhe's words. There were still many questions in her heart, but when she heard the child crying, everything was unimportant. This is the difference between having children and not having children. For a woman with children, the child is always the first, even her husband Huo Yingzhe has to be ranked second. No, it should be the third. Because she has two children, a daughter and a son. Huo Yingzhe was a little surprised by He Tian's abnormality. He secretly wrote it down and continued to pay attention. He also wanted to figure out what was going on. It was still a storm in the morning, but the rain stopped in the afternoon, the sun came out, and there was a long beautiful rainbow in the sky. Part of the yard was paved with bluestone slabs. Huo Yingzhe swept the water on the slabs and then took the child out to cool down. The house was stuffy and hot, and adults couldn't stand it, let alone children. He Tian was cooking in the kitchen, and Huo Yingzhe was taking care of the child. Seeing that the two children's faces were red from the heat, Huo Yingzhe called the little turtle out. "Master, what do you want?" the little turtle asked. Following the master, it practiced with half the effort and had more magical powers. But the master said that it could not come out without his summons. "You stay with Ruwa and Ruiman, don't go far," Huo Yingzhe said, "the child is crying because of the heat." "Yes, master," the little turtle lay under the crib and adjusted the temperature. Please subscribe to the genuine version. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 595. 593. Maybe it was because he felt cooler and the child's crying became quieter. The little turtle was humming, not knowing what it was saying, but the child gradually stopped crying. It would be great if the little spinner turtle could take on another form and help him take care of his children. In this case, both he and Tian can go to college without worrying about the children at home. But if it transformed, how to explain the origin of the transformed little spinner turtle? It would be hard to explain to my father that there was an extra person in the house. Huo Yingzhe gave up the idea. He Tian prepared the meal and brought it to the stone table under the tree. She found that the child stopped crying and slept very soundly. It also feels much cooler at the same time. Oops, something is wrong. How could it get so cool? He Tian asked in surprise. Although it was not like being in an air-conditioned room, it was already very cool, and the child would not feel too cold. Huo Yingzhe pointed to the little turtle under the two cribs and said, "It's him. He is originally cold and has his own air conditioning. That's great. This summer doesn't have to be so difficult," He Tian said. "By the way, this can only be used at our home. We can't tell other people, not even my parents-in-law. It's hard to explain." "You're right, we can't let our parents know." Huo Yingzhe smiled. "Come on, eat quickly. Eat more, you haven't had a good appetite these days and you've lost weight." Huo Yingzhe has always seen his wife's hard work, kept it in his heart, and tried his best to do what he can. He Tian pinched her face, then looked down at her spectacular chest and belly. She was speechless. Is this called thin? Which of Huo Yingzhe's eyes could tell that she had lost weight? "You should also eat more," He Tian said. "I didn't lose weight, you did." At night, the child cried. As soon as He Tian woke up, she saw that Huo Yingzhe had already gotten up to change the child's diaper, hold the child, and comfort the child. Most of He Tian's work was breastfeeding, and Huo Yingzhe basically did all the other things. Huo Yingzhe was not fat before, but now he is even thinner. "Be fatter and look better," Huo Yingzhe smiled and glanced at He Tian's chest. "Eat," He Tian blushed and was embarrassed by her husband. Since confinement, He Tian Tian heard from her mother that she could not have sex until 2 months later, so she has been avoiding Huo Yingjia's love. Huo Yingjia felt pity for his wife. Although he knew that his wife had recovered, he did not force He Tian Tian. "I'm just hurting myself." "Haha, I'm serious, I'm not joking," Huo Yingjia said. He liked everything about He Tian Tian. "It's really rare to have each other. Then you will look better if you are fatter, so you should eat more." He Tian Tian gave Huo Yingjia the chicken legs in the bowl, hoping that Huo Yingjia would eat more. "You are now the mainstay of the family, and you have a heavy burden to support. It's not okay for us three mothers to be in poor health. You are not a burden, you are my family, my dearest people," Huo Yingjia said, and wanted to give the chicken legs to He Tian Tian. He Tian Tian took the bowl away and said angrily, "Okay, eat it quickly. If you don't eat it, I won't eat it either." Every morning, Huo Yingjia would go to the surrounding countryside to buy old hen stew for her to drink. Huo Yingjia was always worried that she wouldn't have enough to eat, and he would cling to her about everything, which made He Tian Tian both touched and angry. "Okay, okay, I'll eat." Huo Yingjia smiled and ate the chicken legs. "You drink more soup. I'll buy some fish tomorrow morning and make fish soup tomorrow." Although speculation is not as strict as before, you have to be careful not to get caught, He Tian Tian reminded. "It is estimated that in a year or two, there will be more spontaneous markets in the countryside. By then, as long as you have money, you can buy a lot of things." "I know, it'll be fine." Huo Yingjia smiled and didn't care. The person who could catch him wasn't born yet. Sure enough, the next day, Huo Yingjia got 2 black silver carp, bought tofu, and stewed the fish head and tofu soup. He couldn't finish the remaining fish segments, so he marinated them with salt. Not only He Tian Tian but also Huo Yingjia were eating well. Huo Zhekan and Zhang Lifang's food standards had also been greatly improved since He Tian Tian and his wife returned to Nanxi. Zhang Lifang is the happiest. Now her family is safe, she has a new baby, her work is going smoothly, and she is happy all day long. He Tian Tian wrote to Grandma Chi San, Old Man Chi, De Niu Chi, Chi Xiao Yan, and Niu Lily in Kijia village, waiting for their replies. He was going to take the college entrance examination in 1 week. He Tian Tian took out Huo Yingjia's notes and looked at them carefully to avoid forgetting them. The whole job of taking care of the children fell on Huo Yingjia. "As a top student, I have already mastered those things, and there is no need to waste time reading. There will be an exam tomorrow." He Tian Tian checked the tools and some documents used for the exam to make sure they were correct before going back to sleep. When he wakes up in the morning, He Tian Tian uses a manual breast pump to wash out the milk and put it in a bottle. When the child is hungry, he can simmer it with hot water and give it to the child. In order to take care of the children, Zhang Lifang asked He Tian Tian and Huo Yingjia to take the exams peacefully and take leave to take care of the children at home. The child has grown up, he is almost 2 months old, he is chubby, pink, and very cute. He Tian Tian and Huo Yingjia came to the examination room together. Huo Yingjia looked indifferent, but He Tian Tian was very nervous, and the difficult review and exam process in her previous life kept flashing in her mind. "Tian Tian, if you work so hard and smart, you can definitely do it," Huo Yingjia encouraged, saying that what happened in the past is over, and there is no need to think about it anymore. Now is all that matters. He Tian Tian looked at her husband, nodded and smiled, and said, "Okay, I understand. Let's work hard together." He Tian Tian and Huo Yingjia went to their respective examination rooms. Looking at the unfamiliar hopeful faces in front of her, He Tian Tian became very energetic. She had worked hard for so long and it was time to reap the rewards. Whether she goes to school or not, she will go to college. In my previous life, I didn't go to college because of those arrogant people. It's a pity. He Tian Tian, who knew the truth, regretted and wanted to die. But in this life, if she doesn't go to school because of her children, it's for the sake of her children, so she is willing to do so. He Tian found her seat. After the invigilator checked, she heard the sound on the radio announcing the start of the exam. Afterwards, in silence, the candidates watched the teacher hand out test papers. They were not only test papers, but also contained the hopes and ideals of many people. After writing your name, place of origin, and identification number, you can start answering the questions, the invigilator reminded, worrying that some people would be preoccupied with the exam and forget to write their names. Even if they get full marks, it will not help. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 596. 594. He Tian followed the instructions of the invigilator and did everything one by one. Then she looked through the test paper. Most of the questions were the types she had done before. It was not difficult. As long as she was patient, not careless, and took the test seriously, she would definitely pass. He Tian started to do the questions in an orderly manner. In the first Chinese test, she could write out the answers to most of the questions at once. Only a small number of difficult questions required thinking, but this was not difficult for He Tian, who was about to tear up her high school Chinese textbook. After writing the last word, He Tian checked it from beginning to end, and then corrected 2 mistakes. He Tian looked at the watch on her wrist. There was still half an hour left. He Tian, a good student, did not want to hand in the paper early and affect the candidates around her, so she lowered her head and kept checking her paper. After the invigilator reminded her name, test score, ID number, and other information again, he began to collect the papers. He Tian's paper was placed on the table, and the teacher collected it one by one. After coming out of the examination room, some people were ecstatic, while others were depressed. He Tian smiled and walked towards Huo Yingzhe under the big tree at the door. Huo Yingzhe was already waiting for her there. Let's go home. He Tian didn't bother to check the answers with Huo Yingzhe, she just wanted to go home as soon as possible, her breasts were so swollen, and her milk was about to overflow. At the same time, she was also worried that the child was young and would cry at home. Huo Yingzhe rode a bicycle and took He Tian with him, and the couple returned home together. When they got home, the child was sleeping and didn't cry. How did you do in the exam? Zhang Lifang was cooking, and when she saw He Tian and Huo Yingzhe coming back, she couldn't help asking. Huo Yingzhe shrugged and said, no problem at all, what about you? I'm fine too, I did well in the exam, I can do it all. He Tian said, let's check the answers in the evening and see how many points we can get. Okay, Huo Yingzhe nodded. He Tian went into the house, quickly took out the milking machine, wiped her breasts, and started to milk. There was another math exam in the afternoon. I guess she didn't care about feeding the child again. After dinner, before He Tian left, she felt that she had some milk, so she fed her baby before following Huo Yingzhe to the examination room. The math in the afternoon was easier than she had imagined, and He Tian was ecstatic. However, she did not dare to be proud and careless, and she could not be careless. After calming down, she answered the questions seriously. It went very smoothly. Even if she checked, He Tian could not find any mistakes. Even if there were mistakes, He Tian had already done them, and it was impossible to check them. When they came back in the evening, the couple checked the answers. He Tian found that she did get a few questions wrong, but the other questions were okay, and she should be able to be admitted to Nanxi University. In the next few exams, He Tian took them seriously and did well. Although not as good as Huo Yingzhe, it was definitely a good result. After the college entrance examination, He Tian and Huo Yingzhe smiled at each other and savored the various flavors. It was not easy. 2 days after He Tian and Huo Yingzhe finished the exam, guests came to their house. Zhou Yuanchao came, and also came Chief Engineer Sun and Aunt Li. Huo Yingzhe was shocked when he received the telegram. It stands to reason that Chief Engineer's son has been in the Nanji Institute and his freedom of movement is restricted. How can he come to Nanji now? Although Huo Yingzhe was worried, he was also looking forward to it. He went to the train station in person to pick up Yingzhe, and asked his father's secretary to drive over to pick him up. "Boss, I think you are too happy to leave," Zhou Yuanchao complained. "I have been waiting for you in the institute, but you never come." Huo Yingzhe took 2 steps back and approached Chief Engineer's son and Aunt Li, saying with a little disdain, "A grown man said such a thing, and he is not afraid of being misunderstood." "Haha," Aunt Li smiled heartily, "you two are still so fond of joking. Yingzhe, I heard that you are married." Huo Yingzhe nodded and said, "Yes, Aunt Li, not only married, I already have a son and a daughter, twins." Zhou Yuanchao's eyes turned red when he heard this. "Boss, look, I'm 1 year older than you, and I'm not married yet, but you've already gotten ahead of me. You can't just marry yourself and forget about me." "Introduce me a date," Zhou Yuanchao complained. He also wanted to get married quickly, but he couldn't find the right one, and they couldn't get along, so it was delayed. "Aunt Li, didn't you accept it?" Huo Yingzhe smiled, a little unbelieving. "Humph," Aunt Li said in annoyance, "I told him so many, but he didn't like any of them. He said that even if he couldn't find a woman prettier than your wife, she couldn't be too bad. I came here this time just to see how pretty your wife is, so that this kid could compare like this." Huo Yingzhe glared at Zhou Yuanchao and said maliciously, "Haha, if you want to find a woman prettier than my wife, you're probably destined to be a bachelor in this life." "Boss, how can you curse me like this?" Zhou Yuanchao said angrily, "You're not a brother." "Haha," Chief Engineer's son saw his 2 proud subordinates fooling around and smiled, "We rarely have a vacation, and we got permission from the higher UPS, so we came to Nanji to take a look." Chief Engineer's son hasn't left the Nanji Weapons Research Institute for 10 years. Now he came out and looked at the buildings outside, which were similar to before, but he could tell from people's smiles and expressions that they were different. It's time for Huaxia to get out of that period of haze. "Okay, I'm just about to finish the exam and I'll take you for a walk around Nanji," Huo Yingzhe said with a smile. He had been taken care of by the 2 old men in the past, and he wanted to treat them well this time. After a while, we arrived home. Tian was letting the little turtle look after the children while she went to cook. Chicken soup is simmering on the stove, rice is cooking in the pot, and Tian is cooking. Although the little spin turtle cannot transform into a human form now, it can transform into the appearance of an ordinary turtle, the size of a wash basin. The appearance is no different from an ordinary turtle, but those 2 little mung bean eyes are moving around, and they are very haunted. As soon as Zhou Yuanchao came in, he saw 2 turtles next to the crib. "Boss, why do you have such a big tortoise at home?" Zhou Yuanchao asked. "This is a great tonic. Let's make soup for it at night." "Bastard! You are the big bastard." The little spin turtle cursed in his mind. It is a spin turtle, okay. This person is either blind or ignorant. I also want to use him to stew soup, but I can't drink it to death. Okay, don't talk nonsense. That's a turtle that's hundreds of years old. Be careful if you offend it, or it will cause trouble for you." Huo Yingzhe reminded with a smile. The little spinner turtle is very cautious. General Manager's son was very curious. He took a closer look and nodded. "This is not a tortoise. As for what breed it is, I can't tell. But the year is indeed very long. Such animals are all spiritual. Support, I'd better say a few words to you." The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Xing Cao. Chapter 597. 595. When Zhou Yuanchao heard this, he was quite dumbfounded. "General Engineer's son, you are a scientific and technological worker, why do you believe in feudal superstition?" Zhou Yuanchao asked puzzledly. They are staunch materialists and do not believe in these feudal dross. General Manager Sun shook his head and said, I am an atheist, but there are some things that science cannot explain, so we still have to be fearful in order to have the spirit of continuous pioneering and enterprising. You are a young man, and you will definitely not be able to speak arrogantly. Good. Aunt Lee pinched Zhou Yuanchao's ears and said angrily, You, please remember, don't be arrogant all day long. At this time, He Tiantian came out of the kitchen. Aunt Lee and Chief Engineer Sun were stunned when they saw He Tiantian. Aunt Lee turned directly to Zhou Yuanchao and said, If you are looking for such a beautiful wife, Yingzhe is right, you are destined to be a bachelor. Ha ha, Huo Yingzhe laughed, Tiantian, this is my leader at the Research Institute, Senior, Chief Engineer Sun, and Li. When He Tiantian saw the two respected old men, he bowed and said, General Manager Sun, hello Aunt Lee. Okay, Aunt Lee stepped forward and took He Tianatian's little hand, you can tell that you are blessed at first glance. With a talented man and a beautiful woman, it is a match made in heaven. General Manager Sun smiled and said, This is not a work unit. Don't call me General Manager Sunday, call me Uncle Sunday. Uncle Sunday, He Tiantian called, Brother Yingzhe, you call Uncle Sun, Aunt Lee, Zhou Yuanchao, I will make 2 more dishes, and we can eat in a while. Okay, Huo Yingzhe smiled and took them to the stone table under the tree to cool off. He Tiantian went to the kitchen, found tea leaves and a teapot, and made tea for everyone. This is wild mountain tea. It tastes good. Uncle Sun and Aunt Lee have a try. He Tiantian smiled and poured tea for everyone. The fragrance of tea leaves wafts out with the heat. It tastes so delicious, said Mr. Sun, I want to taste it carefully. At this time, Zhou Yuanchao walked to the crib and saw 2 sleeping babies, one covered with a red blanket and the other with a blue one. The chubby little baby is so cute. Aunt Lee looked at it with wonder and said, Oh, they are indeed twins, they look very alike. Yes, it's white and fat, so cute, Zhou Yuanchao said. Aunt Lee, after you go back, you can tell me about your partner. I won't be picky. I'm worried that when the eldest child runs everywhere, I'm not married. Haha, don't be anxious. Finding a partner also depends on fate. He Tiantian brought out 2 plates of food from the kitchen, and upon hearing Zhou Yuanchao's words, she kindly tried to persuade her. The reason why it didn't work out is because the fate has not yet arrived. Tiantian is right. When fate comes, nothing can stop it. Mr. Sun said, Don't be anxious, take your time. Rather than hurrying to find someone who doesn't suit you, it's better to be alone. Zhou Yuanchao couldn't laugh or cry, he didn't know who to listen to. Okay, if you don't like the institute, I will ask my mother to introduce you to a doctor in the hospital, Huo Yingzhe said. The couples my mother introduced are living in harmony and beauty now, and they will definitely not I'll mess with the Yuan Yang score. Zhou Yuanchao was excited and nodded repeatedly. That night, I have to ask Aunt Zhang to pay more attention to her. You are my brother. My wife and children are on the hotbed. How can I let you be alone? Huo Yingzhe said loyally, only when you get married can you become stable. You are single now, and you still don't understand. Although aiding Korea is more stable than before, it is still a little frivolous. It is indeed time to start a family and calm down. Mr. Sun said, Yingzhe, how was your college entrance examination? Do you have to go to college? In fact, with your ability, there's no need to go to college at all. Mr. Sun's implication was that Huo Yingzhe's going to college was a complete waste of time. Huo Yingzhe looked at his sleeping son and daughter, smiled and said, Life is short, I want to spend time with my family. Furthermore, I also want to expand my thinking through learning. Mr. Sun still wanted to say it, but was stopped by Aunt Lee. Old son, what do you do? I won't stop you, but you can't force everyone to be like you, regardless of everything for the sake of career. Aunt Lee said, Yingzhe suffered such a crime, can he still live? Recovery is already a miracle. The country has lost outstanding workers like Yingzhe, but there are still thousands of outstanding scientific and technological personnel. But if his wife and children lose Yingzhe, it is like the sky is falling. When General Manager Sun heard this, he felt very guilty. "Hey, I've wronged you," Mr. Sun said with shame. "I told you to live a good life, but... okay, now that we have decided to be together, I won't dislike you. Everyone has different choices. Besides, Yingzhe doesn't stop working all his life. He just wants to learn more and think more. It's better than working in the laboratory. It would be much better to do some repetitive and backward experiments," Aunt Li said, not wanting her husband to control his subordinates too much. Now that Huo Yingzhe's child is young, he Tian also took the college entrance examination this year. That girl looks smart at first glance, and she can probably get into college. If Huo Yingzhe went to work at the Nanji Weapons Research Institute, he Tian would have to go to school again, and the child would not be able to leave home at all. Huo Yingzhe smiled and said, "General Manager Sun, don't worry. I'm not going to school to avoid work. As Aunt Li said, it's also to broaden my horizons and work better in the future." "Okay, then I'll wait for your return," Mr. Sun said. "There will always be a place for you in Nanji Research Institute." "Thank you, Chief Engineer Sunday," Huo Yingzhe said. Now he still receives the allowance and salary from the Nanji Weapons Research Institute, which is of great help to his life. This is one of the reasons why Huo Yingzhe is very grateful to Chief Engineer Sun. He Tian prepared the meal and brought it to the stone table. He Tian took a bottle of peach blossom wine and a bottle of white wine, and said, "Yingzhe, 8 Korea, you accompany Uncle Sun and Aunt Li to eat and drink. I will take care of the children first." The child had woken up and started to cry after grunting. He Tian quickly took the diapers prepared in advance and carried Ruimin to the bathroom. Fortunately, she just peed, washed her bottom, put on a dry diaper and wrapped it up. The little girl felt comfortable and stopped crying. He Tian put Ruimin back in the crib and moved a small red wooden fish on it to practice her eyes. Ruwa also woke up. Looking at his flushed face, he Tian guessed that he might have pooped, and hurriedly carried the child to the bathroom. If this is the case, fortunately, there is warm water warmed by the sun, so I can wipe it clean with a diaper, then wash my bottom and put on a dry diaper. Ever since I had a child, I have to deal with poop and urine every day. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 598. 596. He Tian and Huo Yingzhe also completely understood that sentence, pitiful parents in the world. Only when you become a parent can you truly understand the meaning of this sentence, and you will also better understand the difficulty of being a parent. When a child comes into the world, parents have to work hard to raise the child. It is impossible for those who are not parents to know the hardships involved. He Tian packed up the 2 children, put the child on the crib, went to the bathroom again, and washed her hands with soap. After coming back, instead of eating, I breastfed my 2 children. Only when the child is full and honest can he Tian have time to eat. Fortunately, the 2 children are small. They only become distressed when they are hungry, pee, or have a bowel movement. They are very quiet at other times. If 2 children are distressed together, he Tian's scalp will go numb, and he doesn't know what the children are thinking, so he will be extremely anxious, sometimes to the point of bursting into tears. Huo Yingzhe wanted to accompany the guests, so he could only watch He Tian busy like a spinning top. Seeing that He Tian had fed the child, Huo Yingzhe quickly poured a bowl of chicken soup for He Tian and said, "Tian, eat something quickly. You can eat in peace and put the child over there." If he cries, I'll go and watch. Haha, you drink, I will watch for you, Aunt Lee smiled. When he Tian changed the diapers of the twins, Aunt Lee was watching. Then thank you, Aunt Lee, Huo Yingja thanked her. With someone helping his wife, Tian could feel more relaxed. You're welcome, Aunt Lee smiled, turning to look at the children in the crib from time to time. Her son and grandson are in other places and cannot be seen once a year. When I see these two children, I think of her grandson. Hey, I don't know when such days will end. If possible, she hopes that both her sons and their families can return to Nanjing. In this case, we can see each other at least a few times a year, instead of not seeing each other for several years and only knowing about family members through letters. He Tian chicken soup rice, I ate 2 big bowls very quickly. Since returning to Nanjing, there are not so many people taking care of the children, so he Tian eats very quickly. Most of them eat next to the crib with a bowl in hand. He Tian finished eating, rinsed her mouth, came to the child, and said, Aunt Lee, please eat quickly, I will watch the child. Haha, the kids are right next to you, no trouble. Your 2 kids are well behaved and should be easier to take care of, Aunt Lee said, looking at He Tian with very loving eyes. Aunt Lee now understood why Huo Yingja had always been obsessed with He Tian when he was in the research institute and would not marry her. Such a good girl, if she were a man, she would also like her very much. It's quite easy to take care of, usually one person can do it. However, these 2 children seem to have agreed on what to do. If one cries, the other will cry. When I hear the child cry, my heart feels like a knife. He Tian explained that these were He Tianation's inner thoughts. The child's cry was heard in her ears and hurt in her heart. Parents are all like this. As time goes by, you just get used to it, Aunt Lee said. Now that the child cannot speak, his crying does not mean sadness, but communication with the outside world. For example, when he urinates, if you feel uncomfortable, you will remind the adults only through crying. He Tian listened and said with a smile, that's what Aunt Lee said. As a new parent, I didn't know much about these things, so when my elders talked about parenting, He Tian would listen carefully and learn. The experience of their elders has made young first-time fathers and mothers like He Tian and Huo Yingja even better at raising children. After dinner, Huo Yingja asked Zhou Yuanchao to come over and wash the dishes. He Tian gave Aunt Lee and Mr. Sun some hawthorn water. While washing dishes, Huo Yingja asked Zhou Yuanchao in a low voice, what's going on at the Nanjing Research Institute now? Are you and Mr. Sun really just here for fun? Huo Yingja didn't believe it. In Huo Yingja's heart, Chief Engineer Sun had always been a very stubborn person, and he wished he could never leave Nanjing Weapons Research Institute for the rest of his life. Zhou Yuanchao looked outside and saw Aunt Li. Mr. Sun was not looking here, so he whispered, there are indeed some changes in Nanjing Research Institute than before. Especially after taking the position now, Mr. Sun is treated favorably, and expressed trust in Mr. Sun, so he gave Mr. Sun his trust. At the same time, the funding given to our Nanjing Science and Technology Research Institute was doubled, and the tasks were still the same as before. This was a disguised form of compensation for our research. That's it. Chief Engineer Sun is a selfless person. In addition to scientific research funds, other money and materials are distributed to researchers, so everyone's life is better. Oh, that's it. Huo Yingja nodded. By the way, since Mr. Sun is free, why don't you go visit the children? Zhou Yuanchao heard this and sighed, this is the second purpose of our coming today. General Engineer Sun's 2 sons have been decentralized. They used to be from Nanjing, but now the policy has been relaxed and they are allowed to return to the city. I want to come over and find a way to get them back so that Mr. Sun's family can be reunited. After hearing this, Huo Yingja nodded and said, well, it's time for the family to reunite. Okay, I understand. You told Mr. Sun's Aunt Lee in private, and I will try my best. Mr. Sun has been upright all his life, so it's a bit difficult for him to ask someone to handle personal matters. Yes, on the way here, the two old men were still hesitating whether to speak or not. Zhou Yuanchao said with emotion, I will speak for them privately, maybe it will make them feel more comfortable. Well, that's it, Huo Yingzhi said, I'm not in the research institute. From now on, you should pay more attention to the health of Chief Engineer Sun and Aunt Lee and let them have a good rest. Chief Engineer Sun, in particular, can't work as hard as before. I know this, Zhou Yuanchao said, my parents are old and I have been staying in Nanji. It is not easy to go back. I thought that when my parents can no longer work, I will take them to Nanji and honor them. This is what it should be, Huo Yingzhi said, if they are willing, I can also find a way to arrange them to Nanji. My mother is from Nanji, and my stepfather is from NMG. Now that I have a younger sister, I guess my stepfather won't want to come over. Zhou Yuanchao said that he also wanted to take his parents with him, but it was not easy. It's not difficult to work or anything like that. What's difficult is family matters. Stepfather will think that he is dissatisfied with the life in NMG. Hey, every family has sutras that are difficult to recite. Thinking about it gives me a headache. His mother was waiting for him to get married and have children. She would feel more at ease now that she had her own home. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 599. 597. Huo Yingzhi knew something about Zhou Yuanchao's family situation. It was hard for him to give advice on housework, so let Zhou Yuanchao handle it on his own. Zhou Yuanchao is an adult and should have a more mature solution. Yes, your situation is very special. You are an adult, so you should exercise caution. If you have any difficulties, you can come to me and I will try my best to help. I've remembered it, Boss Zhou Yuanchao said. By the way, I forgot to tell you, Qian Miao Miao and Tang Xinliang got married last month in the presence of General Engineer Sunday. Hey, the rabbit hasn't eaten the grass beside its nest yet. Tang Xinliang is a brat who only eats grass from the side of the house. Haha, did you forget that there is another sentence, the one who is closest to the water and the tower gets the moon first, Huo Yingzhi said with a smile. Miao Miao is a good girl, and she has a good heart. They have been in love for a long time, and it is completely normal for them to get together. Okay, Zhou Yuanchao said, I also want to find my big round moon as soon as possible. Haha, I wish you success as soon as possible, Huo Yingzhi said. By the way, do you have any news about Sun Jinzi? Yes, we often exchange letters. After he got that honor, after he returned, he was highly regarded by the leaders and did well. Zhou Yuanchao said, it's just that we are so far apart and so far away, so we can only write letters. If you can, it would be better to meet, eat, and drink. As long as everyone is safe, don't expect too much. Huo Yingzhi smiled, and then he and Zhou Yuanchao chatted a lot to learn about each other's lives. After washing the dishes, Huo Yingzhi already understood everything. Yingzhi, come and see the child, I'll make the bed. He Tian smiled, it's summer, it's a bit humid, so I need to dry out the mat. Seeing He Tian acting like this, Aunt Li persuaded her, no, let's go to a guest house for the night. Aunt Li, you're too polite. We have a room at home, why do you want to stay in a guest house? He Tian said, besides, you are the elders that Brother Yingzhi admires and respects. Zhou Yuanchao is a good friend and good brother of Brother Yingzhi. I absolutely cannot let you stay in a guest house. Yes, there are many rooms at home, which is much more comfortable than a guest house, Huo Yingzhi said. He didn't want the two old people to suffer outside. Manager Sun nodded and said with a smile, old lady, don't be polite. Yingzhi and Tian are right. Living at home is much more comfortable than staying in a guest house. Well, we'll have to trouble Tian. Aunt Li smiled and looked around. Such an elegant courtyard is indeed more spacious and comfortable than a guest house. He Tian took out the mats and blankets from her parents' room to dry them. Zhou Yuanchao stayed in the guest room, which was just enough. After he Tian tidied up the room, she went to the bathroom, washed diapers, and kept busy. Originally, all these tasks were Huo Yingjia's, but the guests came because of Huo Yingjia. He couldn't be allowed to do housework without accompanying the guests. Fortunately, there were many people, and there were people taking care of the children. He Tian didn't have to worry about the children, and could just focus on doing housework, which was also very fast. In the evening, Huo Jekan and Zhang Lifang heard that Huo Yingjia's old leader was coming, and they were very enthusiastic. Huo Jekan discussed the research institute's funding issues with Chief Engineer Sun and promised that they would never default on any funding. Zhang Lifang also liked Zhou Yuanchao, a motivated young man with good character, and immediately promised that he would find a good girl for him in the hospital. Zhou Yuanchao was elated. The next morning, Zhou Yuanchao took Chief Engineer Sun, Aunt Li, and Zhou Yuanchao around Nanji to visit places of interest. Zhang Lifang acted quickly. When she came back in the evening, she told Zhou Yuanchao that she would have a blind date tomorrow. When Zhou Yuanchao heard this, his face turned red and he said, "Aunt Zhang, is this a little too fast? Why are you so quick? This girl is a local girl from Nanji. She has good character, good medical skills, good looks, and knows everything." Zhang Lifang said, "Go and have a look, maybe you will find the right one." Seeing Zhou Yuanchao's embarrassment, Aunt Li said with a smile, "Yuanchao is usually a carefree kid, but when it comes to blind dates, he becomes coy and embarrassed. You can't do this, you won't find a good wife." Aunt Li made up for it with a knife. "Yuanchao, aren't you scared?" Huo Yingjia teased. He still believed in his mother's vision. There must be a reason why she thought he was a good match for Zhou Yuanchao. Afraid? What's there to be afraid of in a blind date? "I'll go tomorrow," Zhou Yuanchao said with a pinched neck. He had a headache when he thought of his mother urging him to get married quickly every time she wrote a letter. There are so many lesbians in the institute, but he doesn't even call. Maybe there will be a turning point here. Anyway, he was ready to settle down in Nanji. After all, this was his roots. "Okay, tomorrow you and Yingjia will bring me food for you to aid Korea tomorrow, and let you meet in the cafeteria at noon," Zhang Lifang arranged. "It's just a meeting, don't be nervous." "I can't go," Huo Yingjia refused. Zhou Yuanchao was anxious. He was already a little nervous, and it was too boring for the boss not to accompany him. Huo Yingjia looked Zhou Yuanchao up and down and said, "I'm not going with you because it's for your own good. If we are together, other girls will definitely look down on you." Huh, Zhou Yuanchao was hurt, and the boss disliked him. Aunt Li smiled and said, "What I'm saying is that even if Yingjia comes with you tomorrow, he will still have to wait outside. There are not a few people who go on blind dates together and fall in love with them as companions." Aunt Li glanced at Mr. Sun without any trace, and smiled secretly in her heart. Wasn't that what they were like back then? "Well, I want to thank the boss for his sympathy," Zhou Yuanchao said sadly. The big guy showed such an expression, and the scene was very funny. Everyone was amused by Zhou Yuanchao. Zhou Yuanchao said that he was very hurt. The next day at noon, he Tian prepared the meal and let Zhou Yuanchao eat some first, and then put it in a thermos for her mother-in-law, and asked Huo Yingjia to take Zhou Yuanchao to deliver it. When they arrived outside the hospital, Huo Yingjia stopped under a big tree and said, "Brother, I wish you good luck. I'll wait for you to return here." Zhou Yuanchao changed his previous shyness and said with high morale, "I will work hard." How Zhou Yuanchao went on a blind date, let's not talk about it for now. Huo Yingjia leaned against the tree trunk, closed his eyes, and waited for Zhou Yuanchao. Wang Bing was on the night shift. He changed his shift at noon and went home. He met Huo Yingjia at the door of the hospital. Such a handsome man, you will never forget him after just one look. Wang Bing didn't want to just walk past Huo Yingjia and become an unknown passerby beside him. She had missed it many times before, and she didn't want to miss it this time. So when she passed by Huo Yingjia, Wang Bing probably pretended to drop the lunchbox in her hand, making a crackling sound. Huo Yingjia opened his eyes and saw a woman picking up something on the ground not far in front of him. It was summer now, and even if she was dressed conservatively, she could still see a white neck after squatting down, not to mention that 2 buttons on the woman's shirt were open. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 600. 598. Huo Yingjia turned his head and looked away, but did not step forward to help pick it up. My hand is slipping and injured, can you help me pick it up? Wang Bing asked softly, raising his neck slightly, revealing the slender neck that he usually thinks is the most beautiful. Huo Yingjia ignored him and walked away. Do you think he didn't notice that her hand was intentionally scratched? Furthermore, this woman looks familiar, as if she has seen her before somewhere. Since you can't remember it, you are an unimportant person. No one will die, it's just a trivial matter. If that's the case, why would he be so kind as to help? Huo Yingjia just walked away without even bothering to look at her, which made Wang Bing furious. If she could, she really wanted to catch up and ask Huo Yingjia why he was so ruthless. You read that right, Wang Bing is so passionate, and she hopes others will be passionate about her. Over the years, there have been many suitors around her, but she has never agreed, enjoying the feeling of men chasing after compliments. However, she is now 27 or 80 years old, and she is already an old girl without getting married. Moreover, some of her behavior is noticed by others. A decent person would not pursue such a woman as his wife. There are beautiful women, but for people like Wang Bing, after marrying home, they are destined to live in a grassland. Today's men are very conservative, and no one can swallow this breath. Wang Bing was angry, but there were some colleagues who were off work around him. If she loses her composure, someone will immediately laugh at her. Wang Bing picked up the lunchbox and left in a hurry, regardless of the injury on his hand. She didn't want to stay here any longer, as that would make her even more angry. Feng Qiao also got married last month. She is in high spirits and has a harmonious family. Now she is the only old girl. Her parents, who usually love her very much, also nag her all day long. Hey, if I had known this, I might as well have gotten married early. When Huo Yingjia was still a young boy, if she had a similar attitude, she might be the daughter-in-law of a wealthy family. Wang Bing looked at the mirror, which was as beautiful as ever, and suddenly noticed a wrinkle at the corner of his eye. His eyes widened with fright, and he quickly took a good ice cream to smear the wrinkles on his face. However, the wrinkles are still there, but they are just a little moister than before. She's old, she's old. This realization made Wang Bing feel as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. At the same time, she realized that if she didn't find a partner to marry as soon as possible, she would not be able to find a good one in the future. So, she agreed to the blind date arranged by her parents, but no one liked her. Let's talk about the girl introduced by Zhang Lifang. She has a harmonious family, with a family of 4, including an older brother. This girl's name is Wang Ying. She is 24 years old, has a round face, is pretty and attractive, and speaks in a funny and refreshing manner. Zhang Lifang took advantage of the meal to chat with them. Although she is not as good looking as my sister-in-law, she is not bad. As Aunt Zhang said, she has a good temper and can talk well. In that case, then everywhere. Seeing that the two of them got along well, Zhang Lifang immediately decided to invite Wang Ying to her home for dinner in the evening, striking while the iron was hot. Although Wang Ying was a little shy, she still agreed. When Zhou Yuanchao came out of the hospital, he was not as nervous as when he went in. Instead, he was a bit high-spirited, like a bear who had stolen honey. Zhou Yuanchao came under the tree and did not see Huo Yingzhe. "Where is the boss?" Zhou Yuanchao scratched his head. The boss was becoming more and more unreliable. Didn't he promise to wait for him here? Just then, Huo Yingzhe came from behind and asked, "How was the blind date?" "Yes, it looks quite pleasing to the eye. Maybe my spring will be in Nanxi," Zhou Yuanchao said with a smile. He did not expect it to go so smoothly. "That's good," Huo Yingzhe nodded. "My mother said that girl is good, so that's good. As long as she has a good temper and the two of them can get along, that's fine. As for appearance, it's not that important." Zhou Yuanchao hissed, "Appearance is not important. Why did you find such a beautiful wife? Also, if my sister-in-law is not beautiful, how can you be so determined?" "Of course," Huo Yingzhe said righteously, "we grew up together, childhood sweethearts, and childhood sweethearts. A rough guy like you can't understand." "I don't believe it. There are so many men and women who grew up together. How many of them can become husband and wife?" Zhou Yuanchao said. "You just chase after someone because they are good looking. Plus the love they had when they were children. My sister-in-law is like this. Married by you." Huo Yingzhe laughed and said, "What you said does make some sense. Although I don't want to admit it, I have to say that our looks match each other." "Hey, so I'm destined to only find ordinary women," Zhou Yuanchao said. "Without comparison, there would be no harm." "Okay, the toad wants to eat swan meat. Wake up," Huo Yingzhe said. "If you don't have deep feelings, you can find a good-looking wife. Can you rest assured that someone like you won't go home for a long time?" Zhou Yuanchao was stunned for a moment, and then he took it seriously and said, "Boss, you are so far-sighted. No wonder you stopped going to the Weapons Research Institute after you got married. It turns out you can't let go of your sister-in-law." "Pa," Huo Yingzhe patted Zhou Yuanchao on the back, "I can't let go of your sister-in-law, but it's definitely not for this reason. I won't tell you anymore. Anyway, you just can't eat the grapes, so you just say they are sour. You're jealous." "Ouch," Zhou Yuanchao screamed. "Boss, do you want to beat me to death? Your hands are so strong." "You deserve to be beaten to death," Huo Yingzhe said angrily. "This week, Zhou Yuanchao is a 3.5-pound duck with a 2.5-pound mouth. Success is also the same mouth, failure is also the same mouth." After returning, General Engineer Sun and Ant Li asked Zhou Yuanchao with concern how the war situation was. Zhou Yuanchao answered one by one. When he learned that Wang Ying was visiting his home that evening, Mr. Sun and Ant Li were very happy and could help take a look. Zhou Yuanchao's parents were not around, so Auntie Li, the general manager of the company, acted as an elder for the time being, helping them look after each other. He Tian even prepared a rich dinner and specially bought a large watermelon and put it in the cellar to cool down. When Zhang Lifang came back in the evening, she specially brought Wang Ying back. Wang Ying is also a sensible girl. She went to the supply and marketing cooperative and bought malted milk and candies. Although the children can't eat, they can't be empty-handed when they come over as guests. After Wang Ying changed out of her white coat, she wore a blue floral skirt and had a good figure. When chatting with Aunt Li, Wang Ying can also be neat, generous, and behave appropriately. "Mr. Sun," Aunt Li nodded secretly, "she is indeed a good girl." In the evening, Zhang Lifang asked Zhou Yuanchao to send Wang Ying home to give them an opportunity to talk alone. "Young people, if you see the right eye and spend more time together, you will develop feelings for each other." It was rare for Aunt Li to see Zhou Yuanchao so satisfied, and she was very pleased. This long-standing problem seemed to be solved. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 601. 599. After staying in Nanji for a few days, General Engineer Sun Ant Li and Zhou Yuanchao were about to return to Nanji Science and Technology Research Institute. Zhou Yuanchao would pick up Wang Ying from get off work these evenings, chatting and speculating. Although they haven't reached the level of lovers, they can still be regarded as familiar friends. He Tian prepared several boxes of snacks from Xinggualu for them, and Huo Yingji sent them to the car. Wang Ying actually came to see off Zhou Yuanchao and gave him a bag of fruit. Zhou Yuanchao felt grateful and said, "I will write to you when I get there." "Okay. I'm waiting for your reply," Wang Ying said. She also had a good impression of Zhou Yuanchao, a simple and honest man. Her parents also met Zhou Yuanchao secretly and privately. They were very satisfied and told her to get along first and then get to know him better. Zhou Yuanchao often wrote to Wang Ying, and the two gradually got along well. He Tian heard about Zhou Yuanchao and Wang Ying from Huo Yingji, and said with emotion, "This is also fate. Otherwise, Zhou Yuanchao has met so many girls, why can he only chat with Wang Ying?" "Yes," Huo Yingji nodded, "that sentence is absolutely correct. If we are destined to meet each other thousands of miles away, it will be difficult to hold hands if we are not destined to meet each other." In a blink of an eye, it was time to fill out the application form. Now that you are filling in your application, the scores have not been released yet, so you need to estimate the scores yourself. With Huo Yingji, a very smart person, he Tian calculated her score after taking the exam and directly applied for the Chinese major of Nanji University. Huo Yingji took advantage of the opportunity and applied directly to the Department of Chemistry. One in liberal arts and one in science. After filling out their applications, he Tian and Huo Yingji put the college entrance examination behind them and stayed at home as a family, not going anywhere. In the hot summer, Nanji is one of the 3 hottest stoves in the country. Hiding at home is the best choice. She used to think that the college entrance examination was very important and it was her obsession. Now that he has passed the college entrance examination, he Tian no longer feels that she has to go to college. It may be that her life is very good now and going to college is not her only hope. A month passed, and in mid-August, he Tian and Huo Yingji, both natives of Nanji, were the first to receive admission notices from Nanji University. Huo Yingji, as the top scholar in Jiangsu province, was admitted to the university with first-place results. Although he Tian's grades were not as good as Huo Yingji's, he was still within the top 100. "I got the admission notice and it said I would report to school on September 1st. Going to school is easy, but what about 2 4-month-old children?" She and Huo Yingji couldn't go to school alone, carrying their children on their backs. They are willing and the teacher allows it. When Zhang Lifang and Huo Jekan came back from get off work, they saw 2 admission notices on the table in front of their son and daughter-in-law. "That's great. You two have passed the exam," Zhang Lifang said, very happy. Huo Jekan is also very happy. His son has graduated from high school, which has always been a pain in his heart. His daughter-in-law has graduated from junior high school, and Lao He and Wang Shuping are even more concerned about it. "Now that I am admitted to university, I can finally receive higher education legitimately. But what about the child?" Huo Yingji felt confused. "Both of us are in college, and there is no one to take care of the child. These universities are full-time, with classes available for 1 day only. It's impossible for 2 people to stagger the class time." After hearing this, Huo Jekan smiled and said, "This way you don't have to worry, I've already thought of a way." "What can we do?" Huo Yingji said. "We can't let my mother retire early. Your mother is still young and is now the backbone of the hospital. It is the time when she has gained rich experience. Retiring will be a loss to the country." Huo Jekan said, "I have already written to Yanjing to ask the king who is beside your grandmother to come here and help us take care of the kids." After hearing this, Huo Yingjia's eyes lit up and he said, "Grandma Wang, that's really great." He Tian was confused and asked in a low voice, "Who is Grandma Wang?" "She was my grandmother's former maid. She later got married. The man died during the anti-Japanese war. She has been with my grandmother ever since. She used to take care of my uncle, my father. Even when I was a child, Grandma Wang took care of me until I was 4 years old. He returned to Yanjing only at the age of 30. That's about the same as our grandmother," he Tian nodded. "She is one of her own, trustworthy, and can safely leave the child to her. This Grandma Wang is similar to the Grandma Lan who lives next to American grandmothers. Although they are masters and servants, they love each other like sisters. Yes, Aunt Wang is here. You must respect her," Zhang Lifang said, not wanting her son or daughter-in-law to look down on the people around her mother-in-law. Furthermore, when people come to help look after the children, they must be respected. "Don't worry, Mom, we must respect Grandma Wang." He Tian said that by the time school starts, the child will be 5 months old and can eat milk powder by then. He Tian and Huo Yingjia felt refreshed after solving the important matter in their hearts. "I can finally go to college with peace of mind." Finally, at the end of August, we welcomed Grandma Wang. Huo Yingjia went to greet him personally and brought him home. Grandma Wang had met He Tian and had a good impression of He Tian. After receiving a telegram from Huo Jekan in the capital, she packed up and came over. "Grandma Wang, you drink water." He Tian personally served tea to Grandma Wang and a plate of snacks. Seeing He Tian and Huo Yingjia's warm welcome, Grandma Wang was also very happy and said, "You're welcome, and there's no need to work too hard." It should. He Tian smiled and said, "Brother Yingjia, you stay with Grandma Wang while I cook." Seeing He Tian enter the kitchen, Grandma Wang looked at the child on the crib. "Ouch, they are so cute, even cuter than their father when he was a child. 2 at a time, so cute. When I was in Yanjing before, I thought Huo Yingjian's son was already very good, but compared with these 2 children, there was still a gap. But this is normal. After all, Huo Yingjia and He Tian are much better in appearance than Huo Yingjian and Zhao Huan. Yingjia, these 2 children are growing up really well. They are older and prettier than they were when they were 100 days old. Another day, you can take a photo for the old lady, and the old lady will send it to you. They can't come over, but they have to do it every day. I've looked at the photos several times and it's so tight. Okay, I have a camera at home, I'll take pictures later," Huo Yingjia said with a smile. He also likes to use photos to preserve the memories of his children when they were young. Now that Grandma Wang is at home, He Tian and Huo Yingjia feel a lot more relaxed. Before school started, He Tian and Huo Yingjia were going to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy bigger bottles and milk powder when they received a huge package from Paris. There are not only 10 buckets of milk powder for children, 6 large, medium and small bottles of different types, but also clothes for all seasons. Since having a child, He Tian found that the things her grandmother sent her were obviously less. However, He Tian lacked nothing and did not feel disappointed. Anyway, giving her a child is the same as giving it to her. There are only 2 pairs of good-looking autumn shoes, 1 pair of leather shoes, 1 pair of sneakers, and 2 autumn clothes. Huo Yingjia was wearing 2 sportswear and 2 pairs of sneakers. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Xing Cao. Chapter 602. 600. Everything is ready, just waiting for school to start. He Tian wrote to Chi San's grandma and Chi Xiaoyan in Kijia village. Chi Duniu wrote to tell them that they had been admitted to college and asked about their situation. While He Tian was waiting for school to start, Huang Jingli and Kui Ying unexpectedly arrived. Huang Jingli got He Tian's address from village chief Chi. Now they have been admitted to the university in Nanji. They arrived in Nanshi today and will report tomorrow. He Tian opened the door and was slightly startled when she saw Huang Jingli. Jingli, why are you here? He Tian asked, and then added, have you been admitted to university? Which university have you been admitted to? Huang Jingli came in and said with a smile, I was admitted to the Chinese department of Nanshi University, and so was Kui Ying. Kui Ying's senior brother is in the Department of Archaeology. I arrived in Nanshi today and will report to the school tomorrow. If I have nothing to do now, I will come here to find you. So I haven't seen you for a long time, and I really miss you. Haha, that's great, He Tian said. By the way, where are your salutes? It has been placed in the guest house, Kui Ying said with a smile. Sorry, my senior brother and I came to visit rashly, so I disturbed you. Only then did He Tian notice that there was a man at the door. It turned out to be Huashan. Don't interrupt, come in quickly, He Tian smiled. Actually, you don't need to stay in the guest house, I have room at home. Haha, we brought a lot of things, so I don't want to trouble you, Huang Jingli said. I just came to recognize you and come to your house often in the future. Grandma Wang took care of the two children while He Tian went to make tea. Huashan came in and looked at Kui Ying. His eyes fell on the big turtle under the big tree in the yard. Sure enough, there is something weird. This is definitely no ordinary turtle. The little turtle felt Kui Ying and Huashan's glance. Meng Bin glanced at it a few times and continued to rest under the tree with his eyes closed, ignoring the two people. These two just have more tricks than ordinary humans, so they are nothing to worry about. Under He Tian's introduction, the three of them greeted Grandma Wang and then went to play with the twins. After He Tian poured tea for everyone, took some snacks, put them on the table, and drank tea and ate snacks with everyone. Sister Jingli, where is Lin Xiaoru? He Tian asked. When she left, Lin Xiaoru was busy reading all day and wanted to take the college entrance examination. I heard that she also occupied Huang Jingli's reference materials and kept bullying Huang Jingli. Huang Jingli smiled and said disdainfully, of course she didn't pass the exam. She usually only knows how to eat, drink and have fun, and she just crams for it. How could she not pass the exam? Oh, that's true, He Tian nodded. She didn't pass the exam. Can you go to college smoothly? Hearing this, Huang Jingli smiled bitterly and said, you guessed it right. I passed the exam, and Lin Xiaoru also wanted to use my name to go to college. I didn't agree, and she threatened me again. Fortunately, I have Secretary Qi, and the letter of commendation from the Kijia village brigade never let Lin Xiaoru succeed. In the future, the college entrance examination will not reveal your background, so you don't have to worry, He Tian said. Nanshi is different from before. Yes, it's different from before, Huang Jingli said. In the past, when we walked on the street, we didn't dare to laugh loudly. Now I walk all the way from the guest house and find that everyone's mental outlook is much better, and they don't get angry at all times. People go out to criticize and fight. Yes, it will get better and better in the future, He Tian said. By the way, I forgot to tell you that I was also admitted to the Chinese department of Nanshi University. In the future, we can go to school together, and everyone can have the same experience. A response. That's great, Huang Jingli said. With Sister Tian here, I can always ask you if you have any questions. Sister Tian is a local. She must know the local delicious and fun things. When we go to play in the future, we can also ask Sister Tian about it, Kui Ying said. Even for the turtle, she would go with He Tian, build good relationships. At this moment, Huo Yingji came in from outside, pushing a bicycle with a large sack on the back seat. Huo Yingji narrowed his eyes when he saw someone coming from home. Haha, these two people. He actually chased her to Nanshi. It's really a drunkard who doesn't care about drinking. Haha, we have a guest at home. Fortunately, We bought a lot of things at noon to entertain the guest, Huo Yingji said with a smile. The visitor is a guest, and Huang Jingli has a good relationship with He Tiantian. Okay, He Tiantian agreed. By the way, where are Sister Wu, Ye Xiaofan and the others in the village? Sister Wu and Wang Lei got admitted to their local university, as did Ye Xiaofan and Zhang Qingshan, and they all returned to their hometown cities. Huang Jingli said, there are only 2 educated youths in our village who did not get admitted to university. One is Lin Ziru, and the other one is Li Mingkai. Ah, He Tiantian was surprised. Li Mingkai didn't pass the exam either. No, Li Mingkai clearly passed the exam in his previous life, right? And in this life, Li Mingkai is a teacher at Kijia Primary School. He has a long review time and complete materials. It is impossible that he will not be admitted to college. Huang Jingli whispered, Li Mingkai never received the admission notice. Everyone said he failed the exam. When He Tiantian heard this, she understood and said, haha, not receiving the admission notice does not necessarily mean that you have not passed the exam. Huang Jingli was stunned, thinking that someone had rumored that Qi Jiangguo and Qi Shulai had hidden He Tianatian's letters. In this case, if you think about it carefully, Li Mingkai's admission notice may have been hidden by Qi Shulai. Tiantian, are you saying that the admission notice was hidden? Huang Jingli asked. If that's the case, then Li Mingkai would be too miserable. He Tiantian smiled and said, I'm not in Kijia village, who knows? Huang Jingli knew that He Tiantian had a bad impression of Li Mingkai, so she stopped talking about Li Mingkai. Li Mingkai was too utilitarian, and Huang Jingli's relationship with him was average. Especially after Li Mingkai went to the county propaganda team, there was almost no contact, just a nod and hello friendship. By the way, Tiantian, Daniu was admitted to the normal school in Huai City, and she got her wish. Huang Jingli knew that He Tiantian had a good relationship with Qi Daniu, so she took the initiative to tell He Tiantian about Qi Daniu's situation. That's great. That girl has always wanted to be a teacher. Now she is in a normal school. After being assigned, she will be a formal teacher. He Tiantian was very happy. Qi Daniu is a very pure person. Such a person is particularly suitable to be a teacher. Yeah, by the way, your good sister, Zhenmin, is now helping to build a factory in Kijia village, Huang Jingli said, talking about what happened in Kijia village recently. Ah, He Tiantian was stunned. Building a factory? Isn't this too exaggerated? Yes, construction had already started when we arrived, and we were told to build a wild jujube processing factory. Huang Jingli said, it was said that the wild jujubes in the mountains behind Kijia village have very good health effects and can be made into healthcare products.